My name is Kevin Teasley, and welcome to this episode of our Neve 8424 tutorial series. We're here at the legendary United Recording Studios on the Sunset and Gower lot in Hollywood, California, in my personal production room, Studio K. As you can see, I have behind me my Neve 8424, and we're going to talk about, in today's session, how to use the Neve 8424 in a mastering application, whether that's spreading stems across the console to master them or two-track final print. We're going to go through that, and the way we're going to demonstrate that today is by the boy band Why Don't We on Atlantic Records for an MTV performance that we worked on. So please click the link below to watch the final performance and broadcast, and then you can see how everything turned out at the end. So let's turn around and let's walk through how we did it. Thank you for staying tuned to this episode in our Neve 8424 tutorial series, where we're going to talk about using the console in a mastering application. We hope that you click the link below to see the final concert and the final footage of these performances that the band Why Don't We on Atlantic Records performed for the MTV EMAs as well on the Ellen Show. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about the project and how I use the console. The band was doing some performances for, like I said, the MTV EMAs and the Ellen Show, and they were video packages that we had to send in, just like we've done on some other shows. So we were on a video set and shot all of the performances with the band playing live. It's 5 guys in the band. They're extremely talented. They all sing and they all play instruments. So we had 5 open vocal mics throughout the whole performance, electric guitars, acoustic guitars, keyboards, synths, electric bass too sometimes, a synth bass, live drum kit, piano, cello, and a small string section on one of the tunes, as well as Pro Tools playback assets. So we tracked all of that on set with the Pro Tools record rig there live, and we brought all that back to the studio. The video editors were cutting video to a 2-track, just a rough 2-track from the shoot that day. And once the artists and the label and the management all approved the video edit, we were sent over the video so that we could mix to. It was about 65 to 75 tracks, ambient mics, again, tons of open mics. I had the great fortune to work with my good friend, Jim Caruana, and we mixed the tracks, the performance on a vintage Neve 88R here at United Recording Studios in Studio D. So we did a stereo mix deliverable as well as in Dolby Atmos. So it was amazing. And anyone that's had the opportunity to work on a Neve 88R or hear music on a Neve 88R that's been mixed, it's amazing. We still look at the Pro Tools session, and there's no plugins in the Pro Tools session when Jim mixed it. All of the EQ is done from the console. All the dynamics are done from the console. If we used any outboard EQs and dynamics or reverbs and delays, they were all patched in and brought back on faders into the console. So we might have had total, after patching back in reverbs and delays and other outboard processing gear, maybe 80 or so tracks. With a band the size of 5 members, plus management, plus label, you want to make sure that you get mix approvals. Working in a big commercial studio on a large format console, you don't have all the time that you might need to just work on it for weeks and open up a Pro Tools session and tweak a few plugins here or there. So they were giving us approvals while we were in the room mixing the track. As we talked about in my past videos, I always want to make sure I kind of future-proof myself and kind of always cover myself for any sort of challenges that may arise later. So outside of delivering a 2-track mix and a Dolby Atmos mix to me, Jim also printed back into Pro Tools 1-to-1, every channel, every fader back into Pro Tools. So there were 80 independent channels being printed back in the Pro Tools. So if a Neve, if an AMS RMX reverb was used and it was on 2 faders at the other end of the console, that was being printed in. Lead vocals were getting printed in. The drum kit 1-to-1 was being printed in. So that way, if there happen to be down the road or even on this project, any revisions or notes given, like a member of the band wanting their vocal a little louder, or can you please bring down my guitar here or bring up my cello there? Being that I had everything one-to-one, I could do everything in the box, maybe even from a laptop, and make those changes and send back to them and just about sum up to get back to the mix that we had. So we were covering ourselves that way as well. Also, once we had that, first level of approvals, Jim mixed me some subgroups and some sub mixes so that I could take these 2-track sub mixes back into my production room and kind of put a mastering on them, and do any other things that I wanted to do to treat them. Again, being that I had picture, I had the luxury of being able to have some sort of reference and some relativity of how things should be, the size of the room. So let's look at my Pro Tools session so you can see what's in there, and then we can talk about how I put it on the console. What we're looking at is a screen share of my print rig that's over to my left. And Jim printed me an all drums 2-track submix, an all music 2-track submix, all vocals 2-track submix, and all the ambient mics and Foley and sound design and any reverbs he might have put over the whole mix to glue it all together. So I have that independent. So if we look at my mix screen, you can see that I kind of always start with my heat, 1 tick to the left, 1 tick to the right on the tone, and there's nothing on the tracks. These are all the stems, the 2-track submixes. And I have a TC Electronics Clarity M on each one, even my print track coming back in, just so that I can always check phase. I can do some real-time analysis of the EQ spectrum, and I can check my LUFS on everything just to make sure I'm staying compliant with what the deliverables need to be. And then we can see my notes there, and we'll get back to that in a second. On my all drums, it's going out of my print rig on my Dangerous Convert 8, channels 1 and 2. And on the hardware inserts on the console, I have an SSL G-Bus compressor on it and a pair of API 550As. On the all music stem, it's going out my Dangerous Convert 8 channels, outputs 3 and 4. And on the inserts on the console, I have the Rupert Neve Portico 2 MBP2 and a pair of Mag EQ4s. On the all vocal stem, it's going out my Dangerous Convert output 5 and 6 to an API 2500 and a Cush Clariphonic, just add a little sparkle. And on the all ambience stem, it's going out Dangerous Convert 8, output 7 and 8, and it's hitting a pair of Summit TLA 50s to Neve 1073 EQ. And they're coming onto the console. And now let me show you how it's coming to the console. If you hit Q mix, which makes it go, or 48 channel mix mode, all of your Q sends now become channels from your DAW 25 through 48. And as we talked about in my first video, episode 1, we talked about how I have the console set up. And for me, 25 through, what would that be? 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 25 through 32 are all my returns coming from my Dangerous Convert 8 on my print rig. So the drums are coming 25, 26. Music is 27, 28. Vocals are 29, 30. And all the ambience mics are coming 31, 32. These are your volume knobs, and these are your pans. I have the volumes at about 3 o'clock and the pans hard left and hard right. But instead of sending them to straight to the sending the Q bus straight to the mix out, I'm routing them to groups 3 and 4. And the way you do that is if you hold the pan knob down as you press group 3 or 4, now you're sending that to now not go to the mix out, but to your groups 3 and 4, excuse me. So now I'm sending that to groups 3 and 4. So all of my 25 through 32, which are my sub mixes, are being panned, volume controlled, coming from the print rig, but going to group 3 and 4. On each one of those, I have an analog hardware insert going on them. Normally, your analog inserts go to your channel faders 1 through 24, but if I put an insert on there and I hit this button beside it, IPC, now it's sending the insert, moving it from the fader level up to the Q level, which is now channels 25 through 48 coming from a DAW. So all of my inserts now are up here and not the faders. They're now getting sent to group 3 and 4. On my group 3 and 4, if I look back at my notes in Pro Tools, I'm adding EQ, the high and low EQ band, shelf EQ bands to the groups 3 and 4. So that's over the whole sum of the tracks after I've put the inserts on them over there. And I've also engaged the pan just to kind of keep my stereo field nice and wide. And then on my insert here, on groups 3 and 4, I'm adding, what am I adding? Oh, a Bricasti M7. And I just have another room music. I think the setting is Music Club, and I tweaked that a little bit to even now put this whole thing into a space. Now, that is now, groups 3 and 4 are getting now sent to my mix out, my master fader. And on my master fader, I've engaged the EQ and made some little settings there. I've engaged the width knob to add a little space to everything. And on that, I have my insert on that, and I'm added a Manley Massive Passive EQ to a Better Maker limiter, where it's not I don't have it in true peak limiting mode, where it's just taming the peaks at the loudest moments to keep it in and about -6. I want to keep that dynamic range, but I'm keeping it at about -6 per my deliverables. And then when it comes out of the Better Maker limiter, it's going to a Burl B2 Bomber A to D that's getting printed back in. So that's how everything is going from the print rig, from the Convert 8s to the Q sends, which are now in 48 channel mix mode, that are have hardware inserts on them, getting sent up there, and then they're being all sent to group 3 and 4. On 3 and 4, I have some EQ, I have the pan engage, I have some hardware inserts on those, and then they're both getting sent to the mix bus, where I have some more EQ, the width knob engage, and another insert there before it's getting printed back into the print rig. So if we just listen to a little bit of that, you can see and hear how everything's getting printed back in. The main thing that we wanted to do is to make sure that we delivered within the specifications of the deliverable codecs, as well as I have my stems kind of mastered. I can look at it as stem mastering, going through some hardware gear, getting printed back into Pro Tools for me to do all of my final deliverables. The great thing about that as well is I can look via the VU meters. I can, by the buttons up here, I can look at it, the VU meters, where the final mix out, where everything is. I can look at it from the Q level, and I can also look at my VU meters from my group level. So I'm able to monitor my levels and energy from 3 different spots, so I'm not stuck to one way of monitoring the VU. So that's how we did that project. I hope that gives you some insight on maybe how you can use the console as a mastering or pre-mastering or stem mix mastering rig, kind of like the way we did it for this show. So I hope it gives you a little insight and a little inspiration, and we look forward to talking to you more on our next episode. Thank you.